This is Math 2, Unit 9, Whiteboard Review, video number 2. Number 9, multiply and combine like terms to determine the product of 2x plus 1 times x squared minus x minus 6. When I'm finding a product, that means to multiply. And we've been multiplying using the area model. Okay, so I'm going to multiply my base of 2x plus 1 times my height of x squared minus x minus 6. And you can put, remember, multiplication is commutative, so you can put this is my height and this is my base, and that's fine as well. And that's what I've shown on the left. So 2x times x squared is 2x cubed. Negative x times 2x is negative 2x squared. 2x times negative 6 is negative 12x. X squared, now this term is 1, so I'm going to multiply it by each of these, and I'm going to get the same exact thing. So x squared minus x minus 6. And then I want to combine like terms. 2x cubed has no like terms. So I'm going to write the 2x cubed on the side. X squared minus 2x squared is negative x squared, or negative 1x squared. Remember, these have opposite signs, so this is like doing 1 minus 2. The negative 12x and the negative x are also like terms, so I have negative 1 and a negative 12 gives me negative 13x. And negative 6 has no like term, so it goes at the end. Check this. If you didn't start with any like terms in each polynomial, then you shouldn't have any like terms at the end. So that's my final answer. Remember, I did have like terms, and I combined those already to get these two numbers. But you should have 4 terms, since I started with x to the second power, and this was just x. Number 10. A square has a side length of 3x minus 2. If it's a square, that means both sides are 3x minus 2. And I can use the area model to multiply these. 3x times 3x is 9x squared. 3x times negative 2 is negative 6x. 3x times negative 2 is still negative 6x. And negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. Negative 6x and negative 6x are like terms. Negative 6 plus negative 6 is negative 12. So your answer is 9x squared minus 12x plus 4. Number 11, factor completely. In order to factor completely, you first want to look for a GCF. My greatest common factor is whatever can be divided out of both of these. 6 and 27 are both divisible by 3. Then I look at my variables. They're also both divisible by the lowest amount of x's. So x to the 5th and x squared, they each have at least 2 x's. So x times x. And they each have at least 1 y. So my greatest common factor is 3x squared y. Your greatest common factor goes out in front of your parentheses. So you divide it and see what's left inside the parentheses. So I'll see what's left inside here. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. X to the 5th divided by x squared is x cubed. And y over y is 1. So they reduce. Minus 27 divided by 3 is 9. X squared divided by x is the same, so it's 1, and they reduce. Y squared divided by y is y. My second step is to factor the polynomial. This polynomial, it has two terms, so it's a binomial. In binomials, I want to check for difference of squares. Difference, yes. Squares, no. 9 is a perfect square, but y is not. 2 is not a perfect square. X cubed is not an even exponent, so it's not a perfect square. Because these are not perfect squares, this is my final answer. And I don't factor anymore. Number 12. First check for your GCF. Neither of these is both divisible by the same coefficient, because 4 is divisible by 1, 2, and 4. 25 is divisible by 1, 5, 5, and 25. So 1, 5, and 25. So my greatest common factor here is 1. They don't have the same variables either. Then I factor my polynomial. So this one I'm checking, since it's a binomial, meaning two terms, I'm checking for a difference of squares. Difference, yes, because it's subtraction. Are these each perfect squares? Do they multiply to do the same term times itself to give you that value? Yes, 2x times 2x is 4x squared. Same term times itself to give you that value. 5y times 5y gives me 25y squared. But in order to do the difference, one of these has to be negative. So a positive 5y and a negative 5y. So your first term has to be exactly the same, and your second two terms have to be opposites, but exact opposites. So these factor to 2x plus 5y and 2x minus 5y. That is my answer. I'm going to check that answer on the right by multiplying. Multiplying 2x plus 5y times 2x minus 5y, I get 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 5y times 2x, 2 times 5 is 10. X times y is xy. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. X times y is xy. 5y times 5y, sorry, negative 5y. 5 times negative 5 is negative 25. Y times y is y squared. Check to see, are these two opposites, and are they exact opposites? Yes, so when they combine, they equal 0. Meaning, inside area is 4x squared minus 25y squared. Is that the polynomial that I started out with? Yes, which means this works, and I solved it correctly. My base and my height are 2x plus 5y. Number 13. 1. Find the GCF. My first term is 1x squared. My last term doesn't have any x's, so there's no x in common from all of these, and my greatest common factor is 1. 2. Factor the polynomial. This is a trinomial, meaning 3 terms. In order to factor trinomials, we use the diamond. We multiply the first times the last term, which gives us 28x squared, and my middle term goes in the bottom of my diamond. I want to know what two numbers, or what two terms multiply to 28x squared and add to 11x. That's 7x and 4x. 7x times 4x is 28x squared. 7x plus 4x is 11x. There are two ways to factor that we've talked about. One is by the area model, and one is by grouping. So if I use grouping, I want to write my first term and my last term exactly the same, but I split up my 11x to be 7x plus 4x because this still equals 11x, but I want to split it so that I can make two groups that have two binomials each. My greatest common factor between x squared and 7x is x. And then I divide each of those by x, and I'm left with x plus 7. Over here, between positive 4 and positive 28, my greatest common factor is 4. So I write plus 4 as a positive 4. Dividing each of these by 4, I get x, and 28 divided by 4 is 7, so x plus 7. Then you can see I can factor out my greatest common factor of x plus 7, and then I'm left with x plus 4. So my answer is x plus 7 times x plus 4. If you want to see the area model, please watch to the right-hand side, otherwise you can jump forward. For the area model, I put my first term in my top left box and my last term in my bottom right. I know that x times x gives me x squared, and there's a lot of different numbers that can multiply to give me 28. So I need these two that are diagonal to add up to my middle term. So those numbers still come from this diamond, and you use 7x plus 4x adds up to 11x, but they multiply to 28. So x times what gives me 4x? Well, that's a 4. X times what gives me 7x? That's a 7. And is positive 4 times positive 7 positive 28? Yes. So those are both positive because all of my numbers inside are positive. Then my answer is the same as my binomials from before. It's x plus 4 times x plus 7, and we write it as x plus 4 times x plus 7, each in parentheses. All right, number 14, same thing, multiply first times last. I get negative 24x squared. My negative 10x goes down here, and I want to know which two terms multiply to give me negative 24 and add to negative 10. My factors of 24 are 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. There are two possible options that are 10 apart from each other. 2 and 12, 4 and 6. 3 and 8 do not combine to 10 ever, and 1 and 24 do not combine to 10 ever. So one of these two needs to work. I know that I need to multiply to get a negative number. That means one of my numbers needs to be negative and one of them needs to be positive. So that means I need to use negative 12 and positive 2. Positive 2x, negative 12x. If I had a negative 4 and a negative 6, I would get negative 10, but negative 4 times negative 6 will give me positive 24. So I don't want the 4 and the 6. Using those numbers, I'm going to solve by grouping on the left and solve by area model on the right. Fast forward between which ones you need to look through. If you're more comfortable with grouping, watch first. If you're more comfortable with area model, fast forward to that. So I'm going to write x squared plus 2x minus 12x minus 24. My first and the last terms are the same. These middle terms come from my diamond. Then I want to split them, and my greatest common factor is x, and I'm left with x plus 2. Over here, my greatest common factor is negative 12. I divide that from each, and I'm left with x plus 2. Make sure you're doing negative divided by negative gives you a positive. So you want to take out a negative 12 as your common factor. Then my answer is x plus 2 times whatever's left over. So after you divide x plus 2 out of each of these, then you're left with x and negative 12. So x minus 12. And that is your answer, x plus 2 times x minus 12. If you're doing the area model, the x squared goes in the top left, the negative 24 goes in the bottom right. You still use the 2x and the negative 12x. X times x is x squared. X times 2 gives me 2x. X times negative 12 gives me negative 12x. And negative 12 times positive 2 is negative 24. So again, my answer is x plus 2, x minus 12. Number 15. Multiply your first times your last into your diamond, negative 16m squared. Positive 6n goes on the bottom. The factors of 16 are 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 4 and 4. The ones that add to positive 6 are going to be the 2 and 8. One of them needs to be negative. But when I add, I want a positive, so I want my bigger number to be positive, because it would be 8 minus 2 gives me 6, and 8 times negative 2 is negative 16. So you write out all your terms, m squared minus 2m plus 8m minus 16. Your first and last terms are the same. Your middle terms come from your diamond, and you split. Factor out your greatest common factor from each. These two terms inside should match, so we factor it out to the front. And m minus 2 times m plus 8 is your answer. If you use the area model, the m squared goes in the top left, the negative 16 in the bottom right. Your two terms from your diamond go negative 2m and positive 8m. M times m gives you m squared. Negative 2 times m gives you negative 2m. M times a positive 8 gives you 8m. And positive 8 times negative 2 is negative 16. So my answer is m minus 2 times m plus 8. Please write your answer in parentheses as m minus 2 times m plus 8.